Hello students, I wanted to go ahead and welcome you into this, hopefully it'll be a brief tutorial video on how to use this research log. So first I want to talk to you about why I'm making you use this at all and what it is for. When you set out to do your research and you go to the library database, it's quite a bit different from maybe the kinds of research that you've been used to doing in high school, where you went to Google and just typed in your question or your topic, and you have all the stuff that pops up, and you just click on the link and maybe you go to this website and get information from this website or something like that. At the university level, let me just be clear, you're pretty much done with Google searches, at least for research. Of course, everybody still uses Google to figure stuff out, but for an actual paper, for an academic paper, it's not okay to use Google search, like a Google search, to do your research anymore. Instead, we need to go to the university library. When we go to the library, we need to or when we go online to the database, we need to be prepared so that we can be as efficient as possible. Because I don't want you to worry that the research process is difficult, because it's not difficult particularly, but it is sort of complicated sometimes, or at least it's not you type in your search and the first 10 articles that come up are the perfect articles for your research topic. Usually what happens is that you type in your search terms and some articles come up, and maybe on the first page, if you're lucky, you might find 2 or 3 that you like, and you might have to go to the next page, and even then you might not find very many that you like, or maybe they're all really old, or they're just not quite right for you, so they have to use different search terms and do it again. And by the time you are, you found what you wanted, you can't really remember what you already searched for and what was that one article that I saw, and it's hard to get back there and remember what search terms you used so you can find it, and it's so frustrating because you're like, I know I saw it, where was it? And sometimes you end up doing the same searches all over again, and you're like, wait a second, haven't I already seen these? Like, it just takes your research process is not just do this, then this, then this, then this, and you'll get all of your answers. It's more complex than that, just like the writing process. We try one thing, we get maybe a few answers, maybe we have to redirect and try another way, maybe our research question starts to change along the way. It's not streamlined, it's not simple step by step, but it's also fun. It's exciting to do this research and not know exactly where it's going to be headed. But we also want to make sure that you don't start feeling frustrated or overwhelmed with not knowing, feeling disorganized, like you don't know where to find all the stuff that you've already found. So for that purpose, we have created this research log, and I created this research log in collaboration with Mr. Nelson, who is the research librarian at UTRGV, and also Mr. McGregor, who is a lecturer also for the writing programs at UTRGV. And we created this log because we felt like these were things that, as researchers ourselves, these are things that we keep track of as we are researching to help keep our process more streamlined. Okay, so that's the purpose, is so that you don't end up wasting your own time, that you can go and get your research done in a way that feels more focused, right? And also, to be honest, another reason why it's good to have a research log, if you keep track of everything that you've done, and you're still not really finding your results, and you decide, I really need to talk to a librarian for help on this particular topic, you'll be able to show the librarian all this work that you've done, and he or she will look at it and say, oh, well, why don't we try this search term or this search phrase? And then maybe you'll be able to get better results. So that librarian won't have to kind of sift through all the work, and trial and error with all the stuff that you already did. He or she will be able to look at what you've done and move forward from there. So it's really helpful to, once you go to speak with the librarian, that you've already got some work done. Okay, so before you go any further with this video, I want to make sure that you have already viewed the video that Mr. Nelson created for us. It's embedded here, or if you're in my class, I already uploaded it to our module, so you should have clicked on that and watched it already. It explains how to get to the UTRGV library page, how to navigate the databases there, and also how to contact a librarian if you need help. I also suggest that you spend some time, if you haven't already, with these two tutorials. They're both about like 3 to 5 minutes long at most. They're really, I thought they were great tutorials, very visual explanation of how to use those Boolean search terms. And we will be using those in this log. So if that isn't clear for you, make sure that you go back and revisit these tutorials. Okay? Okay. So we need to, when we sit down with our research log, we have to kind of lay the groundwork, the framework for what we're doing. We want to be able to, when we go to that database, to get started right away with our searches. So to do that, we have to have in our mind a really clear idea of what we're looking for. I can't tell you how many times a student has come to me and said, Nicole, I can't find any sources that work. And I said, well, what's your research question? Well, it's kind of about this or that. And I'm telling you, if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. So you have to have a pretty clear idea in your mind what your research question is. And that research question might change, and that could be a beautiful thing. Maybe as you are doing research, it morphs into slightly different directions, even better. But we at least have to have a clear idea of where to get started. So today I am going to do this example for you with the sample research question about writing process. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in. What is the writing process like for most freshman composition students? Right? So that's just the question that I have right now. And then, I want to go ahead and put in some other potential research questions. It's either like the same, like another way of stating the research question, or it's a slightly different take on the research question, because for one thing, it might give me better ideas for search terms over here. But also, if you start to see sources that are maybe matching these research questions down here, maybe you want to switch your research question a little bit. And I want to say that everything that's here, everything that we're looking at on the entire document is a draft. It's open for revision. I don't want you to feel like whatever you put in this box right here, this is your plan and you must stick to it. You must use this particular research question and these particular search phrases, because that's not the way real life works, right? You might decide to come back and change things and add things as you are researching, and that's fine. In fact, that's why we have this research log, to sort of be able to track, and if you have a great idea, to go ahead and come here and put it down so you don't forget about it later. Okay, so let's put some possible variants for my research question. One of them is, are college students aware of their writing processes? Possibly also, how do most freshman writing processes compare with the writing processes of more experienced writers? Okay, so that's the general direction that I'm going to take just to start with. It might change, but right now this is where I'm going to go. So now from here, I'm going to go to the search terms that I might be able to use. So thinking about key terms, if I'm looking at this question, key terms is mostly going to be nouns and verbs, right? So writing process, freshman, composition, students. So let's go ahead and put some of those words down here. So I've got writing. Now I know from looking at these Boolean search term tutorials, especially the advanced one, that if I want the words to be together in the same phrase, I have to put them inside quotes. So if I don't want writing here in one paragraph and process down here in another, but I really want the article to be about writing process, I need to put that in quotation marks. So that's what I'm going to put here, writing process inside quotation marks, right? Freshman. I'm also going to put freshman singular. I don't know, maybe that will make a difference. I don't know. University, student writers. Maybe I need to put that in quotes too. Student writers, possibly Characteristics. Because for that one I was thinking, you know, what is it like? How would you describe it? What are the characteristics? So that might be another good search term. Okay, and then we want to think about alternative search terms. So these are like the ones that occur to us naturally. But Mr. Nelson, the librarian, explained to me that some of these databases don't necessarily use search terms that are necessarily natural to the way that we speak and talk about the topic. They might be more controlled search terms that are particular to each database. So it might be in one database you can use the term writing and get all kinds of articles that are exactly what you're talking about, but in another database you might have to use an alternative term like composition. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here. So I'm just thinking of synonyms basically for some of the search terms that I've already got there. Just because when you are in the heat, the middle of you know, researching and you're not getting the results you want, it's really easy to just like be frustrated and walk away. But if you already have those alternative search terms right there at your fingertips, you can start to plug those in and see if you have a better luck. It's kind of like a backup plan. So composition would be one. Maybe instead of writing process, it could be composition process, although I kind of doubt it. I think usually we're going to talk about it as a writing process. Maybe instead of saying freshman, I could say novice writers. Maybe instead of university, I could say college instead, right? So those are just other things that maybe I could use if these terms are not helping me out. So this is my first step. The keywords are my second step, and then my third step is to go over here and already start formulating the search phrases that I want to use. Okay, so I'm going to try out this one, writing process, and I'm going to put it in quotes, right, because I want those to go together, and freshman. So if I were to put that one in, then I would get any of the articles that come up have both writing process and freshman somewhere in them, okay? If I wanted to make it even more specific, then I can add other and phrases, right? Other variables that must be present. So I could put writing process, quote, and student, and characteristics. I could have maybe done freshman here instead of student, but I want you to maybe get the feeling that I'm kind of building the more, the more terms that I put in there, the more specific my search becomes. So I could also do writing process and student and college and characteristics. And then I could even do down here writing process and student and university and characteristics. I mean, those of you who take statistics know that there's like endless possibilities of ways that you could combine these, but you put a few up there. So the more you're adding these and phrases, the more specific you're making your search. So if you start off with this first one and you get like thousands of hits, like lots and lots of different articles, maybe you need to add another and phrase to make it more specific. On the other hand, if you don't get enough articles, it's just the number's too small, we can add an or phrase. It sort of makes that pool of possible articles a little bit bigger. So what I could put here would be writing process. I still want that for sure. And then I want either an article that says freshman in it or a student. So either way, so that makes it a little bit bigger. Maybe I would like to try writing process, quote, and freshman or student and characteristics. So you can see how these are sort of building on these. Like I'm already starting to think of, well, maybe this one is going to be too specific, so I need to change it to freshman or student. That's a little less specific. Maybe I'll have better luck with that one. Okay, and again, I'm trying to do this work up front to save myself some time and frustration later, but of course, you might come up with new search phrases and new search terms as you are doing the research, and that's not only is that okay, that's natural, and that's probably what should happen. And maybe you already know that if you put in, writing process and student, that you might end up with some stuff that you don't want. Now, I've already done this search, so I can already tell that if I put in writing process and student, I'm going to get a lot of stuff about children and adolescents, but I'm not interested in that because I don't teach middle school and high school anymore. I teach university students. So I would put down here writing process and student, but not child. I'm not really interested in children's writing processes right now. I mean, it's interesting, but that's not my research question, right? Writing process and student, but not adolescent. Okay? So, as you're doing your searches, if you're pulling up a lot of stuff that is really unrelated to what you're asking about, what you're really interested in, you can try to incorporate a not phrase into your search so that you can kind of get rid of some of those results. Okay, so I've got some work done here. I am ready to go to the database now, okay? And I do recommend that you do this log on the computer so that you can, if you need to add, another row on your table, you can do it here. You can do it down here. If you need to add an extra table, you just copy it and paste it down here. And if you used all your tables, you can just add another one. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility. So I recommend that you do it digitally on your laptop or computer. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is just head on over to the university library page. Okay, so we're going to go to databases, A to Z. I'm going to ask you to do this because I'm already suggesting to you that you use Academic Search Complete, which you'll see in a second is the very first one on top. I'm going to be using JSTOR. I already know that JSTOR is a good one for me because it has a lot of articles about composition included in there. Right, but if you didn't know, so if you're doing this for a different class, and maybe you're doing it for biology or something, and you don't know which database to use, you can go to databases by subject. Right, and then here's a list of different subjects. Right, so if you're interested in biology, you could click here, and it would tell you which databases would be best to use. Okay, so keep that in mind for future use. For now, we're just going to click on databases A to Z. I'm going to keep things a little bit, I'm going to give you a little bit more direction today. You'll notice still, though, it'll tell you the description of each database so that you can decide whether or not that's going to be useful for the topic that you're looking for, right? So I wouldn't use Access Medicine if I'm looking for an article on education because they wouldn't have anything there. All right, so Academic Search Complete is the one that I'm going to suggest that you use today. I think that it will probably work well for the research questions that you're asking. It's also the one that Mr. Nelson used when he was doing his demo. Today I'm going to be using JSTOR because, again, that's the one that I am the most familiar with. But really, as long as you are familiar with those Boolean searches, it doesn't matter too much which search or database you use. They're going to function pretty similarly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go into JSTOR. Since I'm not on campus, I'm going to have to log on. If you are on campus, of course, you just get directed right there, which is convenient. And let me just say, this did not happen when I was going to college. It started to happen a little bit when I was in graduate school, but you all are going to college at an amazing age when you have access to all kinds of information from almost anywhere. So just be thankful for that. It's actually really cool. Okay, so the name of the database is JSTOR. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here and type in the name of the database. And the reason that I want you to do this is because for this particular assignment, I pretty much just need you to use the Academic Search Complete, and that's fine. When you're doing research on your own for real for other classes, you might find that maybe that one particular database isn't really giving you very good results, and you want to try it in a different database. And it's really nice to have it's really nice to have it separated so that you can remember, okay, I used these search terms in this database and I used these search terms in this database. And for the same reason, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put in the date. So today is July 26th, And the reason that I want you to put the date on there is because, you know, a lot of times when you do research, you don't just sit down and do it all at once. You might do one, you know, a little bit today, work for another 30 minutes a different day, work for another hour a different day. And on Wednesday, you're like, oh, what was that article I found? I know it was on Wednesday because I was eating a hamburger and I ate that hamburger on Wednesday. Right? What was it? What article was it? What even database was it? If you have the date on there, it just kind of makes that a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to stay organized. Okay, so I'm in the database. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and copy my Boolean search term. The work's already done. I've already got it there. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. Oops, I didn't mean for that to happen. I guess I didn't copy it very correctly. Copy, paste, right? Control C, Control V. And then let's hop over to the database, and I'm going to just paste in my Boolean search phrase, easy, and search, and we'll see what pops up. Okay, so at this point, again, probably the first article that comes up is probably not going to be exactly what you're looking for. So this is the part where you've got to do some work and sort of sift through all of the articles that are coming up and decide if they're really going to be helpful for you. So I'm going to be doing a read aloud right now, sort of just saying what I'm thinking as I'm looking at these things, just to kind of model for you what you could be doing when you do your research. Okay, so again, we're keeping in mind our particular research question: what is the writing process like for most freshman composition students? Also considering, are students aware of the writing processes, and how do most freshman writing processes compare with the processes of more experienced writers? Okay, relations between writing processes and text quality. I don't care about text quality. A grading procedure for student writing. I don't care about grading. Writing design, using abstracts in the writing process. I don't care about using abstracts. Prove your case, a new approach to teaching. I'm not interested in teaching. Some thoughts about feelings, the affective domaining in the writing process. Okay, well, it's got writing process on there. Thoughts and feelings, that seems interesting. Mentions freshmen right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, this looks promising. I'm going to click on it. I like to right-click and open it in a new tab just so that I don't accidentally close my search, because that usually happens to me and then I get annoyed. Okay. So depending on the article, you might have an abstract, which is just a fancy word for summary, and that would be the first paragraph that's right here, and you'd be able to read it and find out what the article is about and if you really want to use it. It says my search terms occur 12 times in this item, so that's pretty cool. That looks like maybe they're going to be talking about it a lot. I'm just going to read through quickly the first couple paragraphs to get a sense of what it's about. Okay, it's talking about college freshmen here. And then here, freshmen, writing is an emotional as well as a cognitive activity. Well, I mean, I know that it's going to be about the writing process. Let's see what it says on the second page. I think she'll get a little bit more specific. It's talking about, let's see, what then are the areas in which we should look for the affective aspects of the writing process? Okay, so she's going to be talking about the writing process, and by affective she means emotional. So, okay, is this exactly what I was talking about? No, but I think there's a good chance that there'd be some interesting things in here. I mean, maybe my research question might change to, you know, how to include emotions in the writing process, but at least she's going to be describing the writing process. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy the citation information. So Control C, copy, and I'm going to flip over to a potential source. So here I am in my log. I'm going to paste it in. It's a little big, so I'm going to merge formatting so it's a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to make some notes about it, because it might seem obvious to you right now what this article is about, but in a few days when you come back to it, you'll be like, well, what was that? And you're not going to remember. So it's good to kind of put down your initial thoughts about it. So I'm going to say here, this isn't exactly what I was looking for, but I think I can still find some good descriptions of the writing process, plus the emotional focus could be interesting. Okay, so it's a potential. All right, so let's keep going. We've got that one, so let's look back and see what else popped up. Cognitive activities of beginning and advanced writers, a causal analysis. Okay, I am already interested in this because it says writing process here, and it's talking about beginning and advanced college writers. And that was sort of my alternative research question up here, wasn't it? Right? Compare with the writing process of more experienced writers. But they didn't say experienced, they said advanced. So I'm going to go ahead and add that into my alternative search terms because I might need to use it later. Advanced, it's sort of the same thing as the opposite as novice. Okay, cool. So let's go back and look at the article. Okay, I'm interested in it, so I'm going to open it in a new tab. And let's see what it says. Okay, now this one, we are lucky it has an abstract, so we can just read the summary and decide whether it's going to be worth it or not for us to read the article. So it says, this article presents the results of an investigation of activities carried out by beginning and advanced college students during pauses in the writing. Okay, so they wrote for 30 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Eye movements, facial expressions were videotaped. And it's talking down here about cognitive and grammatical activities. Okay, this does not really sound like the writing process that I'm hoping for. Like, I'm not really interested in eye movements and grammatical activities. So I don't think that this is going to be worth it to me. So could I copy paste this and put it over here in my log? Of course I could, but there's going to be way more articles that don't fit your research question than articles that do. So I would say that unless there's like more than a 50% chance that you would use it, that's sort of my guideline. I'm not sure I would put it in here, but that's up to you. If you think, well, maybe there's a chance, you can go ahead and copy paste it in there. I'm not going to put it in there because I really don't think I'm probably going to use this article. So I'm going to go back to my search and see if there's something else. Okay, current trends and directions for the 80s. Essay test writing performance, I don't care about tests. Self-management strategies, I'm not interested in that. Lessons, I'm not interested in that. Inventions for individualizing the writing process, it's not describing the writing process. How the writing medium shapes the writing process, effects of word processing on planning. Word processing, I'm not really sure that I'm interested in word processing. Plus, this is in 1989, so whatever kind of word processing technology she's talking about is really outdated by now. The impact of computer-based tools and embedded prompts on writing processors of novice and advanced college writers. I'm not sure. This one, I mean, it's almost like the previous one, but it's a slightly newer, and it is talking about novice and advanced college writers. I'm going to go ahead and look at it. It doesn't hurt to look, so let's open it up and look at it. Okay, let's see if it has an abstract. Yay, okay. This study examined the impact of computer-based tools and embedded topical rhetorical prompts on college writers. An outliner, a graphic idea outliner, the prompts increased in conceptual planning. There was no correlation between the amount of planning, increased planning, verbal protocols. Okay, you know what? This is probably not quite as good as the other ones that I've looked at. Because it is focusing on the computer-based stuff, but it looks like there's going to be a lot of description of the process and a comparison of novice and advanced writers. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it down. It seems a little bit more likely that I might use that one. So I'm going to make it a little smaller, right? And go ahead and put here, this is older too. Sad face. But it does compare writing processes of novice and advanced writers. And it also focuses on technology, which I'm not that interested in. Maybe an alternative research question. I don't really feel like changing my research question at this point, but if I continue to find a ton of them and maybe they're newer, maybe I would consider changing my research question. But at this point, there still might be some good things that are in there that I could use. The other thing that you can do, you can click on references back here. And if you feel like this article was like really spot on for your research, the person who wrote that article also did research. So you should look at the references and look through some of the titles and see if, oh, maybe that would be a good article for me to read, right? So possibly here, oh look, how the writing medium shapes the writing process. That's the article we looked at just before here that I said I didn't want to look at. Well, he used it, maybe I should look at it, right? Identifying the organization of the writing processes, maybe that would be a good one for me to look at. So if you feel like you get stuck, coming and looking at references of articles that you think are useful could lead you to some new articles that could be helpful for your research. Okay, so at this point I feel like I have used up this particular search phrase. In real life I might look a little bit more on a few more pages, but right now for this demo I'm going to say, I'm not sure that this is really that great for me, so I'm going to go ahead and try a different search phrase. So let's go back up here. So let's try writing process and student and college and characteristics and see what happens. And while that's loading, I'm going to make sure that I paste it down here. Okay, and so now I've got all these different articles, and at this point I would do the same thing, right? I would go through it and I would, look at each one and try to decide whether if it's worth it or not for me to actually download that PDF. And so I would paste my answers and my observation, my notes here. Okay, and so as you're doing it or when you're done with doing it, you might want to put in some observations here. So for me right now, I have noticed that almost all of the articles on writing process were published in the 80s. Are there newer articles? And that is something that you can do with the database. You can set one of the search parameters to, articles only published after 2000 or something like that. Or is this research topic not in vogue anymore? It's just not popular anymore. You might also, if you wanted to, if you found quotes that you like, you could put a quote here, or if you were reading through and you found some quotes that you liked, you could put a quote here. I think it might work a little bit better here because it's right next to the citation information that you found. So what you can do, as you're doing this here, you can decide to download the PDF here, or you can just save this information and then search for those specific articles later and download them. That's sort of up to you. And then of course if you decided to do a different, use a different database, right, then you would use, put in the new database down here and you would just keep going like that. So now I invite you to go ahead, do this background work here, put down what your research question is, figure out what your keywords are, and go ahead and do your searches, and make sure you're recording everything on your log. I think you'll find that it's a little bit of more work up front, but it will help keep you focused and streamlined throughout the research process. And as always, you can send me a message if you have questions. All right, thanks guys. Enjoy it. It's exciting. It really is when you find just the right source for your question. So I wish you luck that you find a lot of good sources. Oh, and I do want to mention before I let you go, if you're doing this and you're like, this sucks, I can't find, none of the one I'm looking for is working for me, well, just go back to the UTRGV library page and click Ask Us, right? And then you can chat with the librarian, you can email the librarian, call or text them, you can meet with the librarian. And the librarian will be so impressed with you and so happy that you already have all this work done, so that he or she can just jump right in and say, well, why don't we try this direction, okay? All right, good luck, and let me know if you need anything.